थिंक उनका वीडियो ऑफ है।
And I think we're just waiting for Haroon to join.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, कैसे हैं?
बस खैरियत से। आपका मेरे ख्याल में ऑडियो ऑफ है। रूबी चाची, आपका ऑडियो ऑफ है। I finally found a black background.
Okay, we had a student as well, Musharraf. We're just waiting for Haroon, but I think we can start if everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm really excited to start the noon journey in Pakistan at noon time, which is the brightest time of the day. And I would like to welcome you all. This would be a series of webinars that we will conduct on education in general and Pakistan in specific. Noon is a social learning platform where we use technology to engage students through games, live chats, live classes, and we would be launching soon in Pakistan on 10th of September. I lead the operations in Pakistan. My name is Umair. I would introduce the participants. And and then we can hopefully start. So we have with us Bilal Musharraf. Bilal is our VP, is a global VP. Bilal heads our expansion as well. He's an advisor for our Pakistan operations. Bilal is a expert in the field of education, especially technology. Bilal was the founding team member at Khan Academy as well as at Edmodo. Bilal also holds a MBA from Stanford as well as a Master's in Education from Stanford. Thank you so much, Bilal, for your time today. We also have with us Ms. Rubina Babar, who is a former principal as well as a teacher and also a mother to many. We have heard great stories about her, how she has dedicated all her life to education. And still has, and she's still involved in teacher training. And as a former principal, we are very glad to have with us. We also have Musharraf bin Atif. We thought we should also hear the perspective of students. Musharraf is a 12th grade student at Army Public School, Islamabad, DHA. Phase 2, Musharraf plans to go to the army post his studies. We're also waiting for Haroon. I can see Haroon on the call as well. I think with his video off, Haroon is also another pride of Pakistan. Haroon scored 87 distinct A grades in O and A levels. Rather, he has, I think, 7 world records. So he has a world record of 30 A grades in GCE advanced levels. His second world record is 29 A grades in GCSE. His third world record is 20 A grades in GCE ordinary level. His fourth world record is 57 A grades in GCE ordinary level. and his fifth world record is 76 A grades in Cambridge International Examinations, and his sixth world record is 87 A grades in GCE Advanced and GCE Ordinary level and IGCSE combined, and his seventh world record is 40 A stars in GCE Advanced level. I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar and thank you for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having and giving us an opportunity to share with you what we have felt all this time. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Really pleased to have you all here. I would open the floor and with a question that all of you have a perspective on, and that's how prepared all of you believe and think that our institutions, our teachers, our students were to the situation that happened. How prepared were we to COVID-19?
I guess I can take a first crack at it. I was earlier this year, I was based in Singapore. I was, before joining Noon Academy, I was with Edmodo, which is a different kind of an online learning platform. So I was overseeing Asia, and in particular, which included Indonesia and Philippines. So I was seeing how those countries were dealing with the crisis. And relative to that, I would say in Pakistan, the public sector education system was had its infrastructure challenges. So whereas in Indonesia and the Philippines, they were looking at what kind of learning management system to adopt and promote, I think the challenge in Pakistan was more that connectivity and both device access was very limited. So the government was forced to, or saw the practical solution being really to aggregate content and using the terrestrial medium to broadcast. So yeah, we put our heads together and did what we could do, but it's an ongoing process, and how it's kind of a spray and pray perspective, and just like broadcasting content, but we have to figure out how to make it more interactive and meaningful, so for learning.
I would like to add on what Bilal said. There are different kinds of schools. I would say everybody had a different reaction to it. Some of the elite schools who had all the resources and equipment, and the students were also familiar, right? They didn't have to go through so many challenges as compared to those where the children were not used to. The teachers were not trained how to use technology, and online learning was an alien concept. So there, I really salute the teachers, the way they worked hard to themselves improve upon their skills and to pass it on to the students. So we were really not prepared. I wish we were more interactive, but I would still say the government also started the online classes, and that is one big blessing, I would say, the COVID-19 introduced and took the education towards technology and online teaching, which now I think has become the need of the hour. Everyone needs to be familiar with the teachers and the parents as well. This is what I feel very frankly.
Musharraf, what was your experience with online learning in your school?
Sir, I think it's a new experience for us, and so we are getting used to it. Online learning, sir, is quite comparatively to the previous learning, sir. I think online learning has a future in Pakistan, sir. It's we so we can say that some of the in some of the areas of Pakistan, it might not be workable because there are some connectivity issues in Pakistan, and Pakistan is not such a developed country; it's in its developing stages. So, sir, considering the flow at which we are going right now, sir, I think uh, yes, on, online teaching is survive in Pakistan, sir.
Yeah, very interesting, I think, because students are the ones that get affected the more. Haroon, do you have something to say?
I would like to add that I think majority of our more developed cities would, or particularly O and A level institutions, the private institutions would easily survive with online learning, but not our, our metric institutions. Some of them might survive, but majority of our population, uh, they go to public schools. So I don't think they have the devices or the capacity to uh, to um, survive or to uh, attain those devices and learn through online. Uh, if we give them free access or free devices or fund these devices for them, then they might be able to attain such knowledge. But I don't think they can easily, you know, uh, go for this online system or post-COVID system. I would feel the less developed countries, they are having a hard time, more hard time. But Pakistan, I think post-COVID, we have fewer cases now, and I think we are more inclined towards face-to-face learning. And uh, the teachers, they are having a hard time coping with apps such as Zoom and Microsoft Teams. Uh, yeah, that's what I would like to.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because at one hand we have the capability problem, because were our teachers, students capable to make the best use of technology? And the other hand, we also have the availability problem, because in the long run, at least, we should expect the technology to make things cheaper, and it's an investment that schools should do. And now, once, at least in Pakistan, things are improving. Do you think, are we better prepared, uh, and our schools and our teachers, do you think there has been a major shift, or not?
If I may answer this, because although I'm not a functional principal, not running any institution, but all my friends mostly are in the education system. And my juniors are constantly in contact with me, and they told me some of them are really very happy. The discoveries that they have made and that what they have passed on to the students also, they feel it was absolutely a challenge, which they initially felt a little apprehensive, but later on they felt it was an uh, opening of new discoveries like the Google classrooms, and they really felt that some of the students, especially the self-motivated teachers, the passionate students, and uh, students who are independent learners, they were very, very happy with online learning. And some of them shared with me, like my own grandson, who had to, travel a long distance going to Karachi Grammar School. He felt he saved a lot of time. He could research and learn much more, which he felt it was not possible in the classroom because a lot of time was sometimes, you while away the time during discussion. Not all discussions are focused. So they were different. A majority, a large number of students and teachers felt that they are happy because they feel more apt, more discoveries, more technology. Technology has helped them to discover latest methodologies of teaching. Yes, a little lazy ones and who are fixed, not ready to accept change. It is, that is, I think, the biggest problem when we don't accept the change readily. If we have that willingness to learn and to adopt new things, I think it becomes, it is difficult, but not impossible. I think you can take it at the public level also. If if the government is keen and proper planning and programming is done. Because I talked to my maid, even she bought a few more uh, mobiles because she has 5 children and all were getting homework and teaching on mobile data. So, Mr. Babar, I think we should move forward and not roll it back. I would not go on public school, and that at every level, efforts should be made to take Pakistan uphill and meet the challenges of future. This is the need of the time.
Absolutely.
I guess
Musharraf,
I would just,
please.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just asking Musharraf's views as well, but we can have it after you.
I was just going to add that, one of the things that that's being talked about, that has been talked about, what can technology really do that is value additive in the process of teaching and learning. And this term flipped classroom has also been talked about, and although it's being scrutinized, but it is in the sense that where students or learners need time is they need time in digesting new information in their own space and their own time. They should be given more time, and where they need a lot of socialization and collaboration is when they are applying that knowledge. So that's what technology can do, is create that connectivity that where well, a, in digesting new information, they have all the space and time in digesting new information in their own space, and when it comes down to problem solving, they are connected with each other in a in a virtual space so that they can problem solve together. So both these aspects are very value additive. And once everyone's getting a window, and all stakeholders, whether they be administrators or parents or teachers, of course, when they're getting a window into doing things, whatever subject domain they're addressing, when they're getting a window into doing things this way, they're questioning whether, of course, when schools got completely shut, even now, students are studying remotely. Why should we be allocating our resources that way? If schools are shut, why should we be, that financial question of why should we be paying the level of tuitions that we are, should those be allocated differently, have also come up, and they're out there.
Very interesting.
And
Musharraf,
very true.
Sorry, please go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I just said very true.
Very true as well, absolutely.
Very true.
And I just wanted to understand from the students as well, how prepared your school is as compared to, March, and some of the examples maybe of what initiatives your school have taken to adopt these things.
So can I first talk about the technology part? So because there's something. So I think everything comes with advantages and disadvantages. Technology also have advantages and disadvantages. So as ma'am previously said that her maid bought 5 mobile phones. So no one knows how hard she worked for them, and now she bought 5 mobile phones for her 5 sons. Now she'll need an internet connection that to support it, and she'll also be paying the fees of the school. So I think, sir, this is one of the disadvantages of it, sir. We have paid a lot of money. Not everyone can afford this type of teaching technological. And sir, of course, it also have advantages. Sir. It is quite advantage. It has advantages for students that are not able to understand concepts in class because of sir, anything it could be noise of other people, and they might not be able to concentrate there. So it also have advantages. But I think, sir, we should look uh, we should look for some way in which we could cover the disadvantages over advantages. So we should provide government or uh, anyone should provide an opportunity for students who are keen to learn, who are keen to learn. They should provide them technology so that they could easily uh, learn these things.
Absolutely. I think it's both on the onus is not just on the government, but also on the private sector. And I think a lot of the edtech players did a great job making their content free in Pakistan, because it's definitely an added cost, especially on the people who cannot afford it. And a lot of them lost jobs and they have to, cope with technology. Uh, but would be interesting to see, Musharraf, how your school is better equipped now as compared to March, or what do you think could be improved? Yeah.
Uh, Yes, sir. I think, sir, our school has improved a lot, sir, because we were not previously not all the schools were not focusing on that sir, technological learning. Sir, what I've seen, sir, from the online classes, sir. I think more students are paying attention to it, sir, than the ones compared to the ones that compared to the class, sir. And sir, um, yes, sir.
Interesting. Uh, I think this is a monumental shift in our education landscape. And I'm pleasantly surprised that students are, paying more attention. Uh, Coming back to, the point that Haroon was making, that the government should play a role as well. Uh, how do you think, we performed as compared to other countries that have better resources, better infrastructure, better access to technology?
Sir, I think we are playing a part. Sir, we cannot do it in a such uh, in, in such a big manner. Sir, we are not that much. We do not have that much facilities as a country. But sir, I think sir, the government is also helping these students where they can. Sir, they have Punjab board have reduced the course by half, sir. And I think the government is also trying to facilitate students where they can, sir.
Absolutely. Uh, and this is a question for definitely for you, Bilal. Um, in this new era, what changes do we need to bring to our teacher training, curriculum design, our overall, pedagogy, to really, deliver a world-class experience to our students and, prepare them for the challenges that lie ahead?
Yeah, so I think like doesn't matter what subject is being taught. I think like their teachers and with the support of administrators should allocate time to figuring out how they can teach differently. I mean, technology is at the end is not it's a means to an end, and the end is improving learning outcomes. So what technology can enable is personalized support for learners. So doesn't matter what subject you're teaching, I think it's worth revisiting how that subject can be taught differently, whether it's the sciences or it's the humanities, in a more personalized manner. So I think that's where both teacher training and uh, can be evolved to, needs to be evolved to. It's already happening in other parts of the world. and then also, you know, the complementary access to connectivity and device access. And, you know, when we're talking about what the government can do, I mean, I'm personally of more of the opinion, I think the government should, whatever resources it has, it should allocate more towards improving connectivity, broadband connectivity, creating hubs of broadband connectivity up and down the country, and creating a competitive environment so that the price of devices continues to go down. It's already going down, but facilitating that, as we have done in the past in Pakistan with telecom providers. I mean, the cost of you know, using cell phones is pretty low in Pakistan relative to other countries. So similarly, creating a competitive environment so that devices are inexpensive, and then the private sector will come around it, and social entrepreneurship will come around it too, so that learners find the educators that they need.
Interesting.
Here I would like to say what one of the students, he gave his input. I would say it's a matter of attitude and behavior also. Like I was quoting my maid, I know it was financial crunch on her, but you know, she's so motivated that she's not going to let her children do what she and her husband is doing. One is in MSc, one is in BSc, three are in schools. So she did not mind spending. When I discussed with her, she said, I'm going to make adjustment in my other expenses, but I don't want my children to suffer. I wish this becomes a realization with the majority of people, how important it is to give your children the opportunities to learn. I mean, she's not sending her children to top of the line schools. And many people are sponsoring and helping her, but they're doing this because she's so passionate. So similarly, when it comes to the government's help, I fully agree that connectivity, like right now, I face the issue of connectivity, which we had to, you know, hurriedly cope up. It's very much there, but we should not lose hope. What I want to say is that people should start accepting the importance of online learning. And my humble suggestion is, which many students and teachers said to me, that not to roll it back once the things become normal, at least one day should be allocated to online learning during 6 days or 5 days of the school, so that it becomes a regular feature. Teachers stay in touch, students stay in touch, and above all, the parents who at times felt, you know, that they had to sit with the children. It's high time that they also learn the importance of giving time to their children when they need help or support while learning. This is what I feel. Maybe I sound too passionate about it, but this is my very honest opinion. We have to go up and see the future of online learning becomes, you know, more proficient and common in Pakistan.
Yeah. Just building on that, we have the question from the audience as well, which is that Sarah has asked us, do you think blended learning will be the future even post-COVID times? I think there is no clear answer, but we have to have a path to it, but would love to hear your answers globally as well. You know, how would Pakistan see and what's the best model?
I mean, I would say that the COVID crisis has very clearly done three things. It has built an appetite for remote learning. It has developed some capability for remote teaching. And there's investment that was that had previously not been happening, but now it's happening in a less capital intensive education system by both governments and by the private sector. So these three aspects are transforming the education system. So yeah, we're looking at a different future.
Absolutely.
I would like to add, I think the currently the biggest problem is the assessment and evaluation of students. Particularly in Pakistan, schools were unable to assess the students fairly, and even internationally, even Cambridge had a lot of problems. There was chaos, and they had to revisit their marking methods, even in UK. So I think the biggest challenge right now, if we totally shift to online learning, would be the assessment of students. With and I was also researching about University of London. It's one of the top institutions in the world. They were giving students 24 hours to solve the examinations, and it's quite easy. In 24 hours, people can do wonders. And there was no way of knowing whether the papers were solved by the students themselves. Even if you give a shorter time frame, people can take help from the tutors and online research. In 24 hours, you can probably solve that paper 4 or 5 times. And I'm talking about one of the top institutions, not a smaller institution. The University of London is one of the bigger institutions in the world. Even they were struggling to cope up with, especially this assessment and evaluation part, assessing fairly. So I think we need to come up with a criteria of assessing students more fairly. That would be our biggest challenge, probably.
Very interesting.
I think this is very interesting and very crucial, because most of the parents also, reacted to it. Some felt that their children were undergraded, and some very honestly admitted that they were not expecting these grades. So a doubt, definitely, but obviously then, as we become more apt at it, people can really devise ways of improving upon online assessment and evaluation. I mean, we should not lose hope. What I want is that the continuity of this process should stay. We should not roll it back. That's my humble, what should I say, suggestion. The schools should not roll it back.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of work that needs to happen. And as you rightly said, we will get there, right? Even
We'll get there.
There's always a solution to it. So a lot of questions are coming up. Daniel Saeed is playing a devil's advocate, and he's saying, can you please talk about the increased screen time because of the pandemic? Because there's also this debate around what's the optimal screen time for kids. And it varies by age, and in different associations have different ranges. I think for students below age 4, the recommended time is 1 hour or less. Any thoughts? Anyone from the audience would like to comment on this question from Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, that's a constant. I mean, if I can take that, that's a struggle. As a parent myself, I think we have to limit exposure to screen time, and so it's going to compete with how screen time gets used for entertainment as well. But one has to allocate chunks of time for both, for off-screen activities, whether they be athletic or extracurricular. So block that time, and shared time with family and friends as well. So one has to create competing interests to strike that balance during the week as well as the as well as holidays. Um, so it's an art that I think we are all going through, and I'm hoping that years down the line we'll have figured it out. But right now we're in the middle of it.
Yeah, and I would like to add on what Bilal said, that other than formal learning, all the parents do not have much control on screen time. The children are using it for games and things like that. But if the teachers devise lessons which are activity based, I'm talking about now junior classes, and learning, it's a learning with fun. And still, there is the option of having fixed, stipulated time, but where the games are incorporated, and that time it is spent just on games, and that is made useful as learning. Your learning from the curriculum is integrated with activities. It's not impossible. You just have to be, I should say, an innovative teacher, a teacher who's interested in devising activities with her lesson plan. Then the whole time period which would be allocated would be something from the entertainment and something, and that would limit the excessive use of screen time. Again, I feel it is applicable.
Yeah, I think we have two very relevant questions to this. I would add both of them and add my comments as well. So we have from Mohammad Huzaifa, who's saying online learning is a very new concept to us, and it was hard to adapt to these changes in March. How will Noon's curriculum help us in actually learning through this medium? And we also have Mehdi Khorasani asking us, do you think online learning is more reliant on the students and less on the faculty? How well is this transition being handled by the students of Pakistan? I would just like to add a few comments here, right? So I agree with Mehdi that now the onus is not just on students, as he mentioned, it's also on parents, as Rubina, you were mentioning, that it's on parents as well. And they also need to give time, and they also need to take ownership, not just for the screen time, but also for the physical activities and planning the time. And with the work from home thing, parents must have realized, that schools were doing a big favor to them managing all this. So I think definitely the onus is on the students and the parents now. And how well this is being transitioned by students in Pakistan. I'll ask you on the point from Mohammad Huzaifa, how can Noon help? I think that's one of the reasons why Noon is what it is today. Because what we realize is that the biggest problem students are facing is boredom and procrastination, which is very common. So we made our platform extremely engaging, where you can learn while playing games, you can learn in groups, you can learn in breakout rooms, you can learn at your own pace, you can learn with live classes, you can learn together. So we created, a virtual school environment while using technology. And that's why we've seen, that Noon has, for its social features, almost twice the time that the students spend learning on other similar apps. But would love to, hear the panelists, that how can we adapt better to these things.
I would like to add that one of the better things in the Noon interactive system is the recorded lectures, when students can learn at their own time. I think that's
There is no connection.
again and again to gain that concept. And also there is an opportunity for students in the Noon interactive system of asking or posting questions, when teachers can also answer at their own time later on in their free time. It would also save time during the class as well, of constant, they can cover the course timely.
I think this is a very interesting suggestion because I was also thinking on those lines of recorded lessons and especially documented. For example, at times I feel teachers in the classroom are not able to, carry on the lesson so well. For example, if it is something like where storytelling technique is required. You need to use your diaphragm, your voice modulation, you're conscious in the class. But while recording, that can be done. For example, if we are doing a rainforest, the video goes on along with the very nice explanation by the teacher, which is pre-recorded, doing landscape, landforms, so many lessons, history lessons in Islamia, where the storytelling technique is used, pre-recorded lessons, followed, coupled with a documentary, but well adjusted and at the right pace where the students, if they are attracted towards the lesson, then the understanding, this is my experience. If you're interested towards the lesson, the content, the understanding is much more than when you are face to face under a grill, asking questions, answering questions. So many topics in every subject can be done very well. That is why I want this to become a regular feature if the schools really think about it as a part of the curriculum. Maybe just one day and every subject can have a turn. The timetables can be adjusted, especially at the higher level, it should be very well utilized, but I find room for it even at the primary level, and at the kindergarten level where activities can be a fun, especially if such a time arises, we never know what happens when children are forced to stay away from the school. So we should be proactive in this field. This is what I humbly feel.
Absolutely.
So I would just add that the global marketplace that surrounds us is on the move. We are not living in a vacuum, and we need to engage learners where they are, and we have a large body of school-age children. Actually, many children who are not even going to school. So, but we have good teachers. It's not that they're in pockets. And what we have an opportunity with the technology platforms like Noon is to unleash their potential in being able to engage a lot more learners, whether these teachers exist in formal systems or in informal systems. And we have Haroon on the call, and also like people who have not yet considered teaching but have a passion for it, and have embraced other professions. This will provide an avenue for them to also teach. The potential is for students to be able to find the right teachers to teach established subjects, but also explore other areas that can potentially be of value to them as they see the global marketplace evolving, which is changing very quickly. And in a country like Pakistan, one aspect that gets ignored is we are a multilingual country, and especially in the early ages, forget English, and even Urdu is not the first language of most children. So that bond that forms between a teacher and a student, if they actually have a native language, is very strong. So that's another area we can explore and overcome this language barrier that we ignore in multilingual countries like Pakistan. And the last bit is about that we've already touched on, is the many-to-many learning aspect, that technology enables a move away from just like a one-to-many approach to teaching, the more students get involved, the larger the cohort of learners that are involved in a session, the teacher has the opportunity to be a facilitator for to identify peer groups so that many to many learning can happen. They don't have to be the only source of information.
Very, very pertinent points.
If I may comment on the role of teachers, I'm not going to, at this stage, condemn anyone, because wherever I saw, whether it was elite schools or it was B schools or it was street schools, the teachers were struggling during this time. They were making efforts, and we must acknowledge the teacher body. They were trying so hard to learn, to explore, and find out ways how to make their students, their time not wasted, keeping them engaged. A lot of discoveries they made during this time. Most of them who were not even familiar with Portal, Edmodo, Google Classroom, they became familiar, and they made worksheets. They even made efforts to assess and evaluate their students, to keep them engaged, and even the school administration, the principals, everyone was under, they felt the responsibility. The need of the time was how to work together. So I must say that our teachers, maybe they are not that well trained, but they made effort. Nobody was sitting with hands in the lap. Everybody was, and we must acknowledge, the administration must acknowledge, the owners must acknowledge the hard work that has been put by the teachers during this time, and the parents also must acknowledge that the teachers were making efforts, and the students as well. They've realized that how hard, maybe a fraction of teachers were, then that's everywhere. Even when classroom teaching goes on, there is a variety of teachers, the passionate ones, the committed ones, and I don't want to say any other thing. We all know all kinds of teachers, but they worked hard, and we must acknowledge that. Even the trainers worked very hard.
Absolutely.
I guess I would just add, like if we can improve the incentives and the signaling a little bit, so that, because if we look at the statistics, we've got 70 million school-age children. We've got 25 million that are not going to school, and then we've got the remaining. There's probably like only 3 to 5 million or less are getting a decent education. The rest of them are not. So we have to figure out how to improve the signaling and incentive system, so that good teachers are able to find these learners and support them effectively. That's it.
Well, I think teachers are the most important pillar of any successful society. And even though a lot of us don't, we might not know, but we are also teachers in one way or the other. Very, very interesting discussion. Let's move to the solution side of things. We've already talked about a few things about training our teachers, investment in technology, having a more blended classroom experience. Would be good to get some ideas that could be shared with the relevant people on what can we do to leapfrog Pakistan in the upcoming age of digitization and automation.
I think we need to make a lot of adjustments. We need to look into it very in a subtle manner. I would say not go into a very revolutionary changes, but we definitely need to look into it, analyze, and make changes, and also build that, create that atmosphere where people try to understand, and also you have to create that emotion that people become more, they accept it readily rather than the change being forced. I always feel that the course change is not the answer. It has to be an agreed upon change where the parents accept it readily, the students are motivated, and as Bilal said, we also need to look into it. How do we inspire and motivate our teachers? We must also acknowledge their efforts and also some incentives at the government level, especially at the private level where the fee structure is, so high. We need to make adjustments at a lot of places to make it go smoothly. We really need to look into it very profoundly, and then there are solutions. In my opinion, there are solutions to everything. We are all teachers. We've gone through it. You don't become expert in one day, but if the uh, willingness to learn is there, you are passionate enough, you always go up the ladder. This is my uh, end of the day, what I feel, that your hard work never goes wasted. But we need to keep them on by inspiring them, by rewarding them in a positive way. It's not just that they keep on bearing the crunch and we do not, really reward them for what they work. It is also important to make a shift, and improvement is only directly related when the teacher is also happy and satisfied, and to take that extra burden or uh, the extra learning that they have to do to pass it on to their students, they must be acknowledged and rewarded accordingly.
Yeah, we have questions coming up as well. And one of the question is, online education should become a norm rather than being a temporary solution. I think we've answered it, but Bilal, if you want to comment, or Rubina, if you want to comment on this.
I think I'm all for it. I think this is the need of the hour. This is the need of the time. You cannot just ignore it once the COVID. I wish the COVID is over so soon, but not the online learning. This must stay on. And as it has opened new vistas for the teachers, for the students. And let me tell you, Mr. Babar, that the parents who were initially very upset, later on, they shared with me, one of my very close friends, she said, I learned so much of technology sitting with my children that now I can do my own email and do so many things, and I'm not so much dependent on my husband. So I think it was a good thing in my aspect, keeping aside the other effects of COVID, but it has not only had adverse effects on education, there have definitely been new discoveries. And we must, if we think positively, uh, it has a positive impact also, one way or the other.
We just to those comments, I would just add that we didn't have summative exams this year, and at the higher education level, we're already hearing news of like more than half the colleges in the US have said they're not going to require standardized tests like SATs and ACTs next year. So we're already seeing this, at least a breather in which students are not going to be scrutinized based on standardized tests. And I think it's a good breather. So we evaluate what is education really about. So discussing previously that, if we start centering more around then student-centric discovery-based learning, then what we can do is have the space in which they can find the kind of teacher that they're looking for. They have a desire, they have an intellectual curiosity to get to know a certain subject. And then there are, of course, platforms like Noon that can offer that space in which they can find a capable teacher that has already been evaluated, reviewed by other peers as being a good teacher. So they can they can learn from them. So in terms of resource allocation, like going forward, I think resources would be much better spent towards teacher training, getting teachers to figure out how they can leverage technology to provide differentiated support to learners. And yeah, again, going back to connectivity and device access, the government can do what it can do, I think, but we have how many households do we have in the country that have decent connectivity at home? It's probably in tens of millions. So every home can be a broadband digital hub. Certainly, households are desirous of. Like Mrs. Babar mentioning that she's supporting, the pursuit of education of domestic help at her home. There are many homes like that. So if they provide connectivity, broadband connectivity, and device access to whoever is learning in their home or associated with their home, every home can be a place for learning as well. So and teachers don't need to be there; they're available in the virtual space. So these are some exciting things that are in the realm of the possible today.
Yeah, I think COVID has given us the opportunity. I would call COVID an opportunity, especially in that tech space, especially for Pakistan, where we have so many out of school kids, such a massive divide between the top education systems and the top education schools and the other schools. Technology could definitely be an enabler. And technology can definitely bridge that divide and help us to depart knowledge at scale in Pakistan. We have a few more questions. We have 3 minutes left, but I would just combine them. So Momal is asking, do the experts think that COVID-19 will normalize the education system the way it was, or will online classes continue to be a new normal, which we have discussed to some extent? Ismail is saying, can you tell us more about the teachers? How are they trained for this online program? Yeah. So Haroon can also share as well his experience, how teachers are trained for this online learning platform. And Madam Rubina is also a trainer. I'm sure you might have started some training on online teaching as well. So with these questions, we can, then after these questions, we goes as well.
Mr. Babar, I have to train myself first to become an online trainer. This is a very honest confession. I'm really being very honest about it. I am used to body language, looking at the expression of my teachers, whether they are engaged, my students. So I think that online training should become part and parcel when we are hiring teachers. We run other programs for our new teachers. This should also become, it's not just learning computers. It should be how to deliver if such a situation arises. And as I said earlier, it has to become a part of your curriculum. It has to be an ongoing process. You can't just ditch it once the COVID-19 is over. And a proper organized programs should be catered for the teachers at every level. When the government schools, let's not just make the divide so obvious by saying private and public and private schools and elite school. Everywhere we need to, whatever level, in whatever language. It's not necessary that all online teaching is going to be in English, whatever the medium of teaching is. But this is one of the methodology, one of the way of teaching. It should stay at all levels. Why should those children be deprived of this thing? They must also be acquainted that this is one way of learning. This is how I feel about it.
I would also like to add that with online learning, I think we can also plug the inequality gap that exists among the students of top and lower tier schools. If everyone has access to the same teachers, apart from connectivity and device issues, if that can be adjusted, or if the government can subsidize maybe some of a chunk of finances for it, then I think that this major inequality that exists, that Bilal was talking about, can be plugged when where 25 million students are not even going to schools. So I think that's a big advantage we can take from this post-COVID situation, as long as we can adapt to this online interactive system and online learning.
Absolutely, the recorded content can be taken to all the students. It is the same for the elite schools. If you make programs, in a language which is easily absorbed and understood by the children who don't go to those kinds of school, you would be doing a great thing and you would be able to bridge that gap. Absolutely. This is how I see it, that this is going to be one of the uh, major methodologies to bridge this gap between the so-called elite and the high-fly schools, and even the underprivileged schools can have access to those recorded uh, lessons or whatever, and they can utilize them according to their own needs. Everybody should utilize it according to their own system and their own needs. This is very, very important. Utilize it effectively, but according to your own needs. It will be at your own disposal when and how to use it. It would not be the same, and the same time is required. Everybody will use it according to their own suitability and requirement, but it's going to be very effective. This is how I see it. As I said earlier also, this is how I perceive it. And I think I'm quite confident that it's going to stay with us. The teachers, I think some of the teachers have become addicted to it now. They share with each other what, they take it as an achievement, let me tell you. They take it as an achievement that they have learned so many new things. They said very frankly, they admitted to me that they were not familiar with Edmodo or with Google Classrooms. I'm not talking about very renowned schools, but it gives me immense happiness when I see these teachers, coming out of their shell and moving upwards. As I visit the schools of underprivileged children, it gives me immense happiness when I see, these things happening in their classrooms and their teachers working on it. It gives me immense happiness. After all, they have every right, to become apt with latest learning, latest methodologies. Why not? There are jewels everywhere, not only in, expensive windows, they're everywhere. You have to just have that eye for it and give them opportunities. So this is like taking opportunities to the doorstep of everyone. This is how I think online learning has a future in Pakistan, for sure has a very bright future in Pakistan. And our government is also convinced that they cannot move on without online and without technology. This is what I have to say, Mr. Babar.
Thank you so much. I think it was a great closing remark to a very insightful discussion. I'm sure we all will come out of this discussion more learned, more motivated, and hopefully more hopeful as well on what is to come. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Really appreciate you all giving a time on their weekends, and we'll have these sessions every week. Thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting.